Hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast here to tell you guys about Canada Dips. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Canada Dip CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BellyUp20 at CanadaDipCBD.com. Once again, BellyUp20 at CanadaDipCBD.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Canada Dips for being a great partner of BellyUpSports. We'll kick things off with La Liga. We'll start out with the teams that are in the relegation zone. We have in 20th place Valencia. That, wow, dude, I've seen them kind of trending down every single year. It's kind of weird to see this team in this position just for the fact that, like, I feel like a good chunk of my life watching La Liga, Valencia has always been there. Maybe contesting, or even when, like, the early years of FIFA, when you did Be a Pro, where you just, you magically pop up on certain clubs. And Valencia, for some reason, was always a club that I ended up in. And yeah, it's just weird to see this team at the bottom. It's like, to explain to people that don't watch La Liga, it's like trying to think of a Prem team that probably would be shocking to see. Like, I guess, like, to see Tottenham, even though I would be all for seeing Tottenham in the relegation zone.
It would be crazy. They're one of the big six for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so it would be just like, that's how I view it. And so that's insane for Valencia. 10 points in this first half of the season. That's almost like, that's pretty impressive. I mean, it's not the worst one. It's not the worst one because what was it? Bochum only has 3 in over there in the Bundesliga. So
Yeah.
it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, bro. The reason Valencia being this low hurts, if I'm being honest, and even just look at the relegation battle in general, man. Just look at it, right? I like to think Valencia has better young players than the likes of Getafe, who I think is some of the, bro. I know terrorist ball is a term very, very heavily thrown around the internet. I totally get that. A lot of people don't know what it means either, which is they're describing certain clubs playing terrorist ball because they're not scoring, not that they're not playing attacking football. Nonetheless, Getafe legitimately is terrorist football. Like, they're there to play physical, beat the shit out of you, not really play the game if they don't have to, hit you on a lucky counter if they can, but they're basically setting up to not get scored on if possible. So to see that team, bro, what is it? 2 whole games clear of Valencia. This is where we are in 2024. Like Hugo Duro to me is a good young striker. Blows my mind that he right now. He is the starting striker for 20th place Valencia, who, like you said before, bro, top 6 consistently, top 4 a good chunk of the early 2000s. Man,
Also, all the names that came out of that club as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
produce so much talent, bro. I mean, they still produce talent to this day. It's not as prevalent as it used to be, but I mean, Ferran Torres, who plays for Barcelona, came out of Valencia. It's just it's crazy that that they've fallen this far. I'm still trying to keep some hope alive, bro. But in all honesty, they've been bad. And for anyone who doesn't watch La Liga, I mean, they've been really bad. I will throw a little bit of shot. I guess against L3. L3 tied 2-2 to the backup Valencia squad. Let you know how down bad Mexico is right now. But yeah, bro, this is Valencia's bad, and to be honest, like Valladolid, Espanyol, there really isn't like a good team in there that you think has a good chance to avoid relegation.
Yeah, and I mean, Espanyol just got promoted this year, and they look like they're very much going back down. But which, I mean, there's teams that do that. Espanyol, I'm sure as a Barca fan, and Edward says this all the time too, Espanyol is a very annoying team to Barcelona. So if they're not in the league, I mean, I'm sure you're.
Yeah, go back to where you belong, as far as I care. I mean, I'm right there with you guys. Like it's Real Madrid, and then right below that is Espanyol. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, at least your random annoying local club is might be gone because I still got stupid Getafe. And speaking of that terrorist ball team, I hate that team.
Bro, I can't stand the manager. He plays almost innocent, like he's being victimized. I don't know, man. Like, when people because journalists bring it up a lot. No one's shy down in Spain, and so it's just, again, the whole persona of that team and that club. I'm not about it, but that's what makes me get up for those games. Like I was like, all right, cool. I have a reason to hate, like really, really hate Getafe today when Barcelona plays against them.
Yeah, exactly. And then talking about teams that are qualifying for European competition, in sixth place we got Villarreal in 20, with 26 points right now. Um, I think Villarreal, it, I'm kind of where you expect them to be. I feel like they should be higher at times the way when I watch them play. And I mean, it's kind of crazy. You think about it, like not that long ago, this team won the Europa League against Manchester United, and and uh, and I think it probably also goes back to the fact that they lost. They did lose their top manager, that went back to the Premier League over, doing his thing with Aston Villa, the Europa League guru, that guy. I don't want to say his name because I hate him, but
Fair enough.
I have my vendetta, but Villarreal, I think kind of. I'm just gonna say this. I don't be surprised if Villarreal moves up. I think that they're finding their stride. They got players on the team that I'm actually very surprised that haven't left Villarreal. Like I'm surprised. Like Jeremy Pino is still on the team. Like I thought that
Hmm.
that guy would be either in Barcelona or Real Madrid or Atletico at some point, and he's still loyal to Villarreal, or the offers just haven't been enticing. Um, but then in Europa League, Mallorca, I think. Did I expect Mallorca to be in any European competition, at least competing for any shot at a European competition this year? No. I mean, I think Mallorca, what they did in the transfer window, I think was just doing what they needed to stay afloat in La Liga, and fortunately, I guess that got them exceeding their expectations right now. Which I mean, if you're Steve Nash and Stuart Holden, you must be super happy about that. But the European competition, guys, like, I mean, how do you feel about Mallorca and Villarreal? Do you see any of them slipping? Because to me, that's my teams to note is that fifth and sixth, I think, could be changing frequently throughout this second half of the season.
Yeah. I mean, so with Villarreal, I'll touch on them first before Mallorca. Villarreal is interesting because at the start of the season, for anybody who's watching La Liga, you thought this team's got to be top four. The reason I say that's because one, they're probably the most exciting team in La Liga, like to an extent, even as hot as Barcelona started, like Villarreal was just so up and down, right? They would get transitioned on, but then they almost with every single counter attack they were scoring. Um, but now it's like some of the inconsistencies have popped up. Bro, today, I can't remember who they actually played today. I'm pretty sure who was it? Was it Betis? Yeah, it was Betis at home. Betis at home and playing with a man advantage for over 50, 60 minutes, somewhere around there. Or a half, I think. But either way, um, having that kind of advantage at La Ceramica, with the yellow submarine behind you, I just feel like a team that potent or has been that potent to an extent offensively should be able to get the job done, and they couldn't, man. It was kind of crazy. And you get these games from Villarreal. They're just somewhat of a feast or famine team. Like you either get today losing at home with a man advantage to Real Betis, who in their own right are a pretty decent team, or you get Nico Pepe with a crazy brace, both goals pretty damn legit, and the team's firing on all cylinders. You mentioned guys like Jeremy Pino. I think Pino's a really good player, but he had that injury, right? And I
Hmm.
think honestly, bro, I don't know. He doesn't play as confidently when I watch him play. Like he does still try to make the runs with the ball inside, carry, cause a little bit of havoc, but like it's the final cutting pass that he doesn't have back yet. And then just beyond that too, I mean, his pace, I don't think, based on what I remember about him, was what it used to be. And that's all to be expected with a major injury. So he might need a little more time. But I think that's why there's probably not like a serious offer for Pino. But they have Baena. Baena's another one. I think he leads La Liga on assists, or he's like top three, some shit like that. So they got some good young players over there, backed by some tried and true veterans like Parejo. So it's a good side. They're gonna be consistent. They'll be fighting for top six. Right now, I think this is pretty good for them. If they slip to seventh or eighth, that would surprise me a little bit, but I think sixth is pretty spot on. Mallorca, that's the one that surprised a lot of people. I could see them finishing mid table, like ninth or tenth. I
Oh,
think
so
there's gonna
you
be a
feel like they're
drop
gonna
off at some
fall?
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. They're not a bad team. The effort's always there, and they have some, playmakers like Mojica and Maffeo. Like, I really like their wingbacks. I think they're solid. They cause a lot of problems for a lot of teams. To me, they're more of like a cup team. I see like a good Copa run, or and of course, all along the way, causing trouble for the big three, the big four. But like outside of that, mid-table to me, 8th through 10th, probably appropriate for Mallorca.
Yeah, and that's kind of how you mentioned it as well. That's why I feel like we're gonna see a lot of shifting in that fifth and sixth spot. At least in my opinion, I think I'm not to say that the teams in the top four are necessarily safe. I think maybe fourth place is gonna be an interesting discussion, but I think the way that team that's in fourth place, which will go right into the Champions League teams, fourth place Athletic Club Bilbao, I think have been fairly sturdy. It's like one of those where you have your window is slowly closing, right? Because the whole rumors with Nico Williams of him finishing out the year and then more than likely going to Barcelona. Those connecting the big three that Spain had in this past summer. Um, so I feel like at this point, Athletic Club Bilbao is kind of going all in. Just kind of putting all their money on the table and just seeing what happens here. Because I think, and if there was a time to go all in, this team, the team that literally won the Copa del Rey last season, why not go for it? And I think that's going to be an interesting. I think a Champions League spot for Athletic Club Bilbao. I think they'll be able to maintain it. I mean, there's also that concern of them. Maybe they got too hot too early, which I'm sure Jose, you have a pretty good idea of that feeling as well. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, Athletic Club Bilbao. I think I like a lot of things that they're doing, and I think it's also go. And I'm kind of intrigued what they do in January. Like, what do they do to add to it? Because I obviously Athletic Club Bilbao, they don't normally buy players, but I mean, I think that there's some players available that maybe they bring in to just add some more depth into what they're doing right now.
Yeah, Bilbao's an interesting team, right? Because I mean, bro, the fact, I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, right? Like the fact that they're all from the Basque Country is amazing. You have to respect Bilbao for that, for fielding a very competitive team with just Basque region players in Spain. Um, with that said, this version, it is probably the most competitive Bilbao we've seen in quite some time. I thought that last season, and then this season, I feel like players like Sanse are stepping up in a way that I kind of knew his game would be elevated. He's 24, 25 years old now. So as that center attacking mid 10 who can also kind of shadow the striker and get his own bunch of goals throughout any given season, I thought he would have like a decent season this year for sure. But I feel like he stepped up to kind of cover some of the gap left a little bit by Nico Williams. You got to remember, man, I think being that closely connected to a fan base and a club as big as Barcelona, like what that might do to a young kid, 21, 22 years old mentally, who's still trying to figure out where his long-term future lies. I think he's known for a while now. Bilbao's not probably not it, but he wants to help them as long as he can. And I think that's probably the reason for the slow start, but I think he's been growing into the season. And bro, Iñaki, his brother, is still banging him in. I swear this guy turns into prime R9 every fucking time he plays like Real Madrid or Barcelona or somebody. Because outside of that, I think he'd be like somewhat inconsistent as a striker. But they got the offensive pieces, man. And if Nico were to leave, I still think Bilbao could be good next season. I think they got Berenguer, who I actually rate as a winger. I think he's a solid winger who can both assist and score. Um, and I think outside of that, I mean, even like the wing back play that they're using now, DeMarcos is a right back. I like what he's doing on that right hand side too. Like Bilbao is still an interesting side. That tie today against Alaves, uh, probably like almost trumps everything I said. But at the end of the day, I mean, Barca lost today too to Leganes, so like it's probably just a weird day. But Bilbao to me is like they have top four potential for sure this season, and next season I would still say top four, top six. I mean, I don't think they'll go away anytime soon, even with the loss of it, Nico Williams.
No, I agree. I think Bilbao has found like their system now, and I mean they've been using the system. It's just that now they have like I guess their generation of players are all coming up at this good moment, which that's why I'm very intrigued of what they do in January because I mean yeah, it's great to bring homegrown talent and all those things are great and all that, but at some point you gotta bring some sort of savvy veteran to come in and really take this team up a notch. And I mean, and the thing is, what you're as you're saying, man, like Sunset coming in, stepping up into the role, like especially after Iker Munai, leaves the club after last season, and certain guys are stepping up in certain moments. You mentioned obviously Inaki Williams, who it maybe not the most consistent player, but does know how to come up for the team. So I think that that's also an important part. But I think it's going to be interesting to see what if Athletic Club Bilbao does anything in the January transfer window. Just because I feel like I especially how right now the top three is looking like, where you're like we can easily slip in. And I mean I'm not saying they're going to win La Liga by any means, but I'm just saying like, hey, while these three are killing each other, we could probably like slip right in and who knows, like maybe we can rewrite history here. And so I think that's an interesting idea. So I think January is going to be telling of what Athletic Club Bilbao views this year, especially when you know for a fact Nico's not coming back.
Yeah, it's true, bro. And look, I would say not even just with incoming transfers. I would say with outgoing ones. Like it really will tell you, how they feel this season is going or what the potential is for it. Because if for some crazy, and I'm saying it would have to be insane for Nico to leave in January. But if someone threw a bag, I honestly I think Bilbao is a club that is reasonable and does have a price tag. Like if it's met, it's met. Um, so there's always that potential. If they sell Nico, again, that tells you everything you need to know about maybe their ambitions for the season. But right now, as things stand with the squad that they have, to me, that fourth place in the top four is theirs to lose. I think if they drop another game somewhere, right? I mean, I drop all 3 points, like lose. Then it gets really interesting for guys like Villarreal, who I think are right, or just waiting for Bilbao to kind of fuck up somewhere. From there, I would almost back either Sociedad or Betis over who's remaining, just because they're the more experienced La Liga sides. Like I expect Betis to continue to grow into the season. Sociedad started terribly, and they should also grow into the season.
Yeah, for sure. And then third place, Real Madrid, didn't capitalize on any of this poor form that Barcelona has been in, and the rut that Barcelona has been in. I mean, 37, a point away from Barcelona. Luckily, you know, my boy, my boy Jeff Lunau and CD Leganes did me a solid here, but but yeah, no, Real Madrid. It's funny is how very dysfunctional Real Madrid is right now, and yet they're still able to be just a point away. And it's a like you to be like this dysfunctional and still manage to be top three is weirdly enough impressive. Like this is Anchor Man. Like I'm not even mad. I'm just impressed at this point. Like I mean, the fact that there's and also with all the injuries that Real Madrid's got hit with this year, Danny Carvajal essentially out for the year. Rodrigo just came back. He did the John Cena "You Can't See Me." That was kind of cool. I mean, would have been cooler if it was a win, but I mean, like,
Good goal. Good goal.
good goal by my adopted son. Valverde has stepped up tremendously. The dude is just he just says, "Hey, I need you to play this," and he says, "Yes." That's all he does, man. That guy's a Uruguayan army knife. So like that's good to see from my other adopted son. And Vinny's healthy, so that makes me feel confident. Mbappe got hurt. I think he's gonna be out for a while, but I'm not gonna touch that with a 10 football. But. But yeah, like with all the and then like now Jude has been on quite the run. Um, I think, at the same time, like these guys are some of the top players in the world. Carlo Ancelotti is still one of the top managers in the world. Like it's one of those things, like even though amongst all this chaos, like you still look at it and you're like, they'll figure something out. I think that's what I hear from everyone. And I know you guys heard me like after, El Clasico, and I still stand by it. Because when it comes down to it, yeah, the regular La Liga games, which I can't even say the regular La Liga games because sometimes Real Madrid looks like shit against those games too. But it's like when it comes down to it, in those games that truly matter, that's where you're like, you can't be a dysfunctional team. You have to be able to look confident. I mean, I think the Liverpool loss was very telling of where Real Madrid is as a team. You can't just rest on, oh, this guy will do something at some point, against a team like Liverpool, against, AC Milan, against those teams, like you can't, against a Barcelona, you can't rest on the laurels of your key players just coming up for a moment. Like those games, you got to be on point just every single minute. Every minute is important. And so, and unfortunately, when it came down to going up against the other two teams in the big three of La Liga, you didn't get a positive result. You got a draw against Atletico Madrid, and you lost to Barcelona, uh, quite handsomely. And so that's where the dysfunction isn't great. This is where the injuries aren't great, and I think third place is oddly impressive for everything that's been going on with Real Madrid this season.
Yeah. I think it shows you too the fact that like most fans don't understand about La Liga, right? They just see the big names. Is that like all these three teams in a really weird way, the big three, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, are all dealing with their own like growing pains in a weird way. Real Madrid being the most dominant X Factor team, defending European champion, defending Spanish champion coming into the season, they added arguably the most sought after piece in recent history, and it somehow made them worse. But like at the same time, that floor isn't very far, right, from like where it was last season, just because on paper the skill is still there. I think the issue with Real Madrid is they're kind of suffering somewhat of a similar, I won't call it a crisis, but like situation and hurdle to overcome here. Ancelotti is anyway, as Pep is kind of dealing with City. Now, Manchester City's issues are significantly deeper and they have a lot of soul searching to do. But I think with Real Madrid, I don't know, sometimes Ancelotti gets in his own way. You mentioned Jude before, right? Like now, kind of on this recent run of form, why did that happen? Right? Because he's back in his normal position, right? Whether Vinny or Mbappe are out, one of those two are out. Jude gets to do what he wants to do on the field. And when that happens, good things happen for Real Madrid. It's something I've said from the start of the season. To me, even with Mbappe coming in, the people were saying, "Oh, is this Vinny's team or Mbappe's team?" I don't think it was either. I think it should be Jude's team if the team wants to win. It's the player Ancelotti should be catering to, right? The perfect example was the Bilbao game at the San Mamés when Real Madrid lost. That penalty that got missed, why did Mbappe take it and not Jude when Jude had made the one against Getafe the week before? Right? It's like in these giant club settings, there are designated takers and you don't switch from that. Like not to save somebody's ego, not to save somebody's form. You don't switch. You play for the win. There's a reason that person's the taker, right? Like in the Ronaldo days, no one was ever telling Ronaldo, "Hey, bro, I need a goal. You mind if I get a goal real quick?" Ronaldo doesn't give a shit. He's the designated taker. Benzema, same thing, right? Like there's a reason. And if Vinny's injured, there's a second guy. The second guy's out, there's a third guy. Like there just has to be a process. And I feel like there's not because of the chaos going on. And the player being catered to is Mbappe, not Jude, which to me I think is a problem considering how impactful Jude is on the field. And so I don't know, man. Madrid can fix a lot of what it does right now, just running the game through him. But like you said, it's not like you guys are in a crazy bad position. It just shows you the growing pains that Atletico Madrid and Barcelona are dealing with, which we'll talk about. But Real Madrid, I mean, it's just a matter of the second half of the season winning the big games. Win them. You have to beat your crosstown rival, and you have to win El Clasico if you want to retain La Liga. And maybe it doesn't happen because of injuries or anything else, but that's just the formula that I think Madrid should be using. But who knows, bro? Ancelotti, so many fans have an adoration for him. Many won't hold him accountable. The others want him out already. So like it's very mixed, but I don't know. I think
It's
the
also
path
very Real
forward should be
Madrid.
through. It's very big club, bro. Like it's a very divisive topic. So I get how great Ancelotti is, but I just think he's a great man manager. He's just over massaging the wrong personality. I think you need to be like catering everything you do to Jude.
Yeah, that I agree. But the second place team is Atletico Madrid with 38 points. The only team with a positive result from this past weekend. And which is crazy because this team took a big, they got rid of João Felix. I think that was the right move for them. They didn't need him. I don't think it fit to what Diego Simeone liked to do in his system. Which honestly, I honestly have no idea what the system is. I think it's just give it to Griezmann, and let him figure it out.
Fair.
Let him decide what the attack is. But you know, Julian Alvarez, I thought was an interesting addition to the team. And then I started looking, I was like, dang, there's so many Argentinians on this team now.
There really
Um,
are. There really are.
yeah, but I think still they play with that intensity that you expect from a Diego Simeone side, but um, I think that there's still a lot to play for. I mean, we also heard the rumors of Antoine Griezmann leaving, leaving Atletico Madrid, to go to LAFC, and thank God that didn't happen. But yeah, I think Atletico Madrid has been an interesting story to follow this year, just because of everyone wanting to see how they respond to moving on from João Felix, because he's not coming back,
Yeah.
and I think that they're responding to it pretty fairly well. But there's also another concern when it comes to Atletico Madrid, and that is how they do in the second half of the season. Are they going to be the ones that are competing for that number one spot, or are they just going to go back to their third place spot that they always end up in?
I don't know, man. I think with Atletico Madrid, it's they're the interesting one, right? Like okay, so first and foremost, everyone's pointing to Atletico Madrid's record, their form at the moment. They're the most informed team in La Liga, which I will not disagree with at all. What I think what I'm disagreeing with is the mass opinion that they are La Liga's best team because of this run. When I want to point to the fact that, like, look, it's not like there are no halfway decent teams that could upset them in this schedule that they've played, but it's not the strongest schedule, right? In that time, 10 games in a row now, they've played UE Vic, which I think is like a fourth division Spanish side. Like, I've honestly never heard of the team. In the Copa, they play Las Palmas, PSG, Mallorca, Alaves, Sparta Prague in Champions League, Valladolid, Casereno, which is again another lower league side in the Copa, Sevilla, Slovan Bratislava, and Getafe. And I'm willing to bet majority of those sides that I mentioned are either in divisions below the Primera or they're in beneath the middle of the table. The majority of them. Very few of them are above that 10th place spot. So again, it's PSG, you can argue, is probably the best team they've played maybe in that run. And that game was disgusting. Honestly, it wasn't even that great of a game of football. 2-1, but they stole it at the very end, right? So I just, again,
Simeone ball.
Simeone ball. Yeah, through and through. Now, again, I think right now they're playing at a slightly better level. I think Sorloth is slowly kind of finding himself. He scored today against Getafe, which is great for them. Julian Alvarez got a lot of shtick in his first few games for Atletico Madrid because he wasn't like creating the goals and assists, but he's getting there now. He's getting numbers on the board. And yeah, man, I mean, on paper, they do have some ballers, bro. Griezmann does control everything. Don't get me wrong. But they leave a lot of games late, and so I wonder also how long that's going to last. It's great right now, right? It's almost good up until it stops working, and then things kind of just fall off. So the big game everyone has to remember that's coming up to really close off the calendar year against Barcelona, that's the one. That's the one where we get to really, really see. Because keep in mind, their record against Barcelona is terrible, terrible. Like Simeone specifically is a terrible record. He doesn't beat Barcelona very often, if at all. So it's just one of those things where if it's the same old, then whether they're in form or not, I like there are very few seasons where I'm worried about Atletico Madrid. So we'll find out what happens. But right now, they are the most informed team in La Liga.
Yep, and then go finishing it off with the team that is right now the front runner with 38 points. Did take a loss today against Leganes, and that is of course Barcelona, which I mean everyone going into this offseason where you had Xavi essentially saying that he was going to step down at the end of the year to then being begged to stay on the club, accepting to stay on the club, then decides to go in a press conference and says something that no coach should ever be saying to a press conference. If there was a class on how to be a coach, in Media 101, the first thing you should probably say is never say that we're probably not going to beat Real Madrid. Um, you know, Even as someone that does support Real Madrid, when he said that, I was just like, I mean, at least
Stupid.
Don't
Stupid. Yeah.
like if bro, I would say Ancelotti out if he said, "Yeah, we're probably not gonna beat Barcelona." Like I, like I
There's
was
just
like,
you can leave it mysterious, you can leave it a number of different ways, but you definitely will just flat
like
out say we're gonna try, but it's probably not gonna happen.
just say we're gonna compete. Like there's no one, everyone knows what you're thinking, but we're like, I mean, he's not. I mean, you're hoping that everyone competes, but and then obviously the still the alarming debt that Barcelona has, which um don't know where they are at least at that point. I think they're about to. I don't know if they signed it or not, but I know with Nike they're supposed to have like the biggest contract in apparel sponsorship history from what it sounds like.
Yeah, it
Um,
is.
Probably still not enough to take care of all the debt, but still. And then you bring in Hansi Flick, which I ain't gonna lie, I clowned the thought of Hansi Flick at Barcelona. Everyone has said something about Hansi Flick being
Mm-hmm.
the manager of Barcelona, and I think the doubt was just because of the fact that his resume, the best came from being at Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
I think that's what it came down to. It so at least my concern was where is he in the youth development side of it? Because and this is just coming off from a Real Madrid fan. Obviously, you're the Barca fan. You kind of have the more idea of like the importance of La Masia, but I know that's Barcelona's bread and butter is always giving me a heart attack of realizing, oh shit, they found another 16-year-old, kind of thing. And so that
Yeah.
was where I was like, I don't know, because at this point with the financial situation that Barcelona's at, that's kind of where they have to go get their players. And you just I didn't believe Hansi Flick could do it, and then Hansi Flick is rocking almost a lineup with with academy players, and you're just like, all right, I guess track and field practice it has its benefits, because I mean even with the injuries that Barcelona's had, because Dani Olmo healthy, hasn't been healthy very fairly well, um, and even when he does play, they look great. Rafinha looks not like Rafinha, if that makes sense to anybody when I say that sentence. Um, Lamine Yamal, I mean. I can't I hate glazing this kid, but I mean the kid's fucking good. And Robert Lewandowski looks like the guy that was supposed to win the 2020 Ballon d'Or. So it's just
It's crazy, man. Yeah,
but
it's insane, bro. Yeah, look, here's the thing about Barcelona, right? And look, I think the hate on Hansi Flick, first off on the hire, was not out of this world. I didn't have the best things to say about Hansi Flick either. I was skeptical, right? And not so much because of just the Bayern Munich stint. Because that was fantastic. And then equally, he's brought back down to earth with Germany. But I think after he got hired, I asked myself, like, okay, well, so what was the difference? And it really was the type of players he had access to. That's basically it. I think with Hansi, it's the same reason it worked so well at Bayern. He had the right skill set amongst his roster to like make the high octane system work. Because it is so much cardio. Like the amount of pressing Barcelona does, the high line they keep, just the consistent obsession with winning the ball back as high up the pitch as possible is also what makes them run ragged. You kind of worry as a Barcelona fan how long some of these players last with the amount of minutes they get. And that's the story right now of this team, I think, is the loss against Leganes today. We've seen it a couple different times already. Whether it was Osasuna or Betis away when we're up 2-0, it's just these random games where as much as Barcelona gets up for the big ones, and keep in mind, they just came off of going to the Signal Iduna Park in front of the Dortmund fans and winning 3-2 in the Champions League. To come back and get shut out by Leganes at home, right? Like that's what we're talking about here. And it's kind of the point of the season where I'm kind of glad that the end of the season is kind of right around the corner and the players get somewhat of a break. Because like you said before, right? Injuries, not just to Dani Olmo, but I mean, Frankie de Jong has barely been available. And when he has, he's still been kind of like not up to game speed yet. So he's still just getting there. But in the back line, Araujo, who was our captain and one of our best defenders all last season. Andreas Christensen, most people forgot he exists. He might move in January too. Keep in mind, I think we have a lot of good defenders, and like you said before, there's still financial room to make up, even with the Nike deal, which is going to be a massive deal. But yeah, man, I mean, with this team, because they're so young, um, we've seen their ceiling and we've seen their floor, right? Like we're gonna have the highs with the lows, at least this season, right? While this team is still young, they still not necessarily play down to their competition, but they sometimes get naive with decision making. They turn the ball over a little too frequently. Sometimes they're a little bit lazy about the high line and open ourselves up completely in the back. It's just it happens with younger talent, right? Not that the skill isn't there, but the experience isn't when you compare it to the other two of the big three. So I think that for that reason, the title race is going to stay close. But that's why those big games are massive. Like Barcelona will be up for those games. They may sleep on Leganes at home, but they'll be up for El Clasico and they'll be up for Atletico Madrid. So that's why those big games are going to be massive for just how the title race kind of pulls towards the end of the season. And I think the second El Clasico is in April, I believe, or early May. So it's like it's right there. I mean, it tips the whole race. But the big one coming up with Atletico Madrid is massive now because for those who haven't heard, Lamine Yamal is probably out. So he got injured against Leganes. He was already dealing with an ankle injury. He'd missed like 2 or 3 games earlier in the season. But I think he re-injured it, and now he's probably like sprained ankle. Like we probably won't see him till the second half of the season resumes, just to be safe. So the only big game left on the schedule is Atleti, and so we got to think about that game without him. But honestly, bro, if he was even 50-50, I don't know if I'd start him against Atleti. Just a very physical team. Shit could get really bad with like overextending himself and really injuring it, right? So yeah, we'll just have to rely on our experience for that one, and I think we can. Like we beat Atleti last season, season before without Lamine Yamal. I'm not saying they're an easy team by any stretch. It'll be a close physical game, but I think we can still beat them.
Oh yeah, we'll see how that goes. I think the other issue with Simeone is they could be overly aggressive and that's when they get exposed. And I think Hansi Flick's tactics for that is going to benefit in some sense. But you mentioned Barcelona kind of maybe the experience isn't all there in kind of paraphrasing what you're saying, but the experience isn't all there. There was a video that leaked out. I'm not. I'm taking it with. I'm not. I'm taking it with like fairly little. I'm not. I don't think that Barcelona are assholes by any means, but um, I believe there was like a video of like the ball boy trying to collect all the balls for the match, and Rafinha was being a dick to him. He just wanted to get like two more kicks in or something like that, and then Chesney was playing keep away with the ball boy. And some random guy on TikTok was going on a rant that this team isn't capable. Like that mentality is not gonna cost them is gonna cost them La Liga, which I'm like, shut the fuck up.
I
But
don't get the translation, but I mean, look, I mean, if they're kind of dicks, I mean, it is what it is. If that's true, I haven't seen
which
that.
also it's Rafinha, so I mean,
They could know each other. They could just be fucking with each other. It could be their relationship, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. I have plenty of boys where we're just assholes to each other, man. It's just how it is. I get it's a kid, but at the same time, right? We don't know their relationship. So saying that translates to not having a winning La Liga attitude, for your information, they've already won La Liga. Thank you very much, Rafinha included. But with that said, I mean, the experienced guys on this team are playing out of their minds. Lewandowski, Rafinha, Pedri, these guys are balling. Kunde was balling to start the season. I think he's had a rough month in like second week of November to where we are now, like rough month and a half, where it's just been a tough stretch of games for him. But he's also had so many minutes last season before, now. Like he gets no break because Barcelona doesn't really have like another option at right back. So I get it with him. Inigo, kind of the same thing. The whole back line, bro, they played so much. Balde is the only one who's gotten like some rest because he's coming off of a major injury. That's the only reason. And they're being careful with him. But
yeah,
Kubasi,
I
I
would
finally
have been
saw him on the bench
intrigued.
today.
I would have been intrigued of if Kurobasi was available. Because I feel like obviously with Araujo, you can move you have like the luxury of Araujo being able to play right back.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but you have that luxury when you have Kurobasi available. Also, these young center backs, just the fact that you got a fucking Puyol like that, it just pisses me off. But
I think Kubarsi and Araujo are both like that, to be honest. I think Araujo's a warrior. I hope he stays with Barcelona, but in all honesty, like it's a weird thing to say. It wouldn't surprise me if in a couple years time or a few years time if he was the one to leave first. I don't know. I think with the whole Bayern Munich saga, because it already kind of happened, they inquired about him. and I think he entertained it. I think he likes the idea potentially, like if the project isn't, I think he's worried about the financial aspects of Barcelona, of course. Seeing what's happening to teammates like Frankie De Jong and his contract situation unfold, the whole Ousmane Dembele saga and how crazy that was for fans and for him in the locker room. And then you think about his own career. I think he just wants to keep options open in case things don't work out for whatever reason, or if Hansi Flick moves on or whatever. And in that event, I think of all the defenders in the back line, he might be the one to go. But outside of that, man, a lot of good young talent. I hope he can keep it going. But uh, right now, I just want to get some rest, man, because the cracks are now showing with as physical as you have to play in a Hansi Flick system.
All right. And before we move on from La Liga, is there any storylines or like teams that you would say keep an eye out going into the second half of the season?
Um, I think the team that's when I watch them play, I love how much heart they have. They have some absolute ballers too. Don't get me wrong. I think Rayo Vallecano is going to be very interesting. They just drew Real Madrid, right? At the Vallecas, and at that stadium, man. I mean, the fan base is insane. It feels like a fortress. Like you could hear it through your fucking TV. Like it feels like a fortress. I really like watching guys like Isi Palazon play. And for those who don't follow him, like he was the guy who scored the equalizer at the end, the 3-3, the bald guy. Dude, to me is an absolute baller. I love the way he plays. I think just players like that with some of these La Liga teams, guys. If you're not watching La Liga, tune in, bro. Go watch that shit. It is so much more technical than the Premier League. It really is. And teams like Rayo, teams like Celta Vigo, they show it, man. They show it. So I would say those two teams, Rayo, Celta Vigo, they're 12th and 13th right now. Just keep an eye on them, man. Like they'll if they don't move a lot in the table, they'll at least upset some big teams, and they already have. Celta with Barcelona and Rayo with Real Madrid.
You mentioned that like 12 play, 13, 12 plays because it's like as far as points goes, like all fairly close to each other from fifth and sixth. So the thing that I actually and that includes Celta Vigo and Rayo Vallecano, but it is that race for fifth or sixth. I think that that is going to be you mentioned Athletic Club Bilbao like how fourth place is their spot to lose, and I agree with that. And maybe I'll throw fourth place in there as well. But that battle for those three spots, those three European competition spots, obviously everyone wants fourth place because everyone wants that Champions League money. But yeah, I think all the teams from fourth to all the way down to where Rayo Vallecano is, which is 13th, are still all from like within reach of each other, and they're gonna play against each other. And we all say it all the time. It's a real 6 pointer opportunity, and that's really what it's probably gonna come down to. It that when we look at this table at the end of the season, those teams that took advantage of those opportunities got their positive results, maybe got grinded it out from those games. So, and I think that is fairly open for any of these teams that, just catches lightning in a bottle and next thing you know, they're in fourth, fifth, or sixth place in La Liga. And I think that that is, and you mentioned it, like people need to start watching La Liga a lot more because you're missing out on the other football that's being played here besides Barcelona and Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. Like there is a lot of quality. Like I remember praising Iago Aspas for years because of how good he was, and I thought it was impressive that he stayed so loyal to Celta Vigo for so many years because I was like, this guy could play anywhere else. I think he would be a very good striker to have on your team, and I think that that's the thing that people that try to shit on La Liga like it's only two teams because they also disrespect Atletico Madrid, but it's more than just two or three teams in this league. Like any of these teams can ruin your season, and we've seen it. Also, we've had years where La Liga sweeps the European competitions.
More
So
than a few. More
more
than a
than a
few.
few.
Spain has had so much success in the European competitions. Yes, it blows my mind that like you usually get from Prem fans, but in general, right? Like I'm not saying it's completely slept on, but to say that it's like a farmers league, it just shows me that you're probably only watching Premier League and whatever international soccer you can absorb to get away with being like a diehard fan. Like I don't know, La Liga, Bundesliga, your Serie A is insane. We could talk about that another day, but Yeah, man. There's a lot of good football being played.